Hey, sweet dreamers. It's your boy, Zach. This week's episode of Jung and the Restless is going to be a little different. See, Victor and Olivia are currently on a vacation, so it's just you and me. No mom and dad. You know what that means, right? That means this is the podcast where it's party time.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I dreamt I had a soul to keep, and if I die before I wake, will that dream just go on for its own sake?
And by party time, I mean I'm just gonna play you some old stuff we recorded. See, for a good while, the Dream Team and I, we were just kind of hanging out and recording it. I would jump online with Vic and Liv, and we'd tell each other our dreams, and we'd edit that down into segments with the intention of putting those together into full episodes. And it took us like a year of doing that to realize that that it was kind of dumb. And so we started recording the show in the way that you've heard it for the past 33 episodes, if you've been listening. And if you haven't, welcome to the show. So for this week, since it's just me, I figure I'll play some of those old segments from that year and stitch it together as an episode in the old inefficient model way that we originally intended. And I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, here's Olivia talking about a prophetic spider dream.
Yeah, I was having a dream. I hadn't been dreaming for a little while, or like I hadn't been waking up and recording my dreams, which might have just meant that I was sleeping better, because I will typically like wake up in the early morning hours and have a dream to write down. Mm-hmm. And I just have not been doing that lately. And I've also slipped back into the bad dreamer habit of waking up with a dream and thinking, oh yeah, I'm not going to forget that.
And then promptly forgetting it.
Yeah. So, but, yeah, I've really noticed, and this has come across in a couple of the dreams that we've talked about, but I have dreams with like copious amounts of animals in them all the time. Like too many, like way too many animals. I don't know what that's about. I mean, it makes sense just because I like animals, but it's also like, why so many?
You were just at a dog rat hunt sport event.
Yeah, that is true.
She just had a prophetic spider dream last night.
Prophetic?
Mm-hmm.
Potentially.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, probably.
What was the prophecy?
Well, okay, so it in the dream, it was like everybody had a daemon, or like a familiar. Everyone in the dream, in that dream world, had an animal that they could commune with that was their special friend or whatever. And I didn't have one yet, and I was like looking around, and this huge spider comes like popping up from like between the wood boards in the deck. And my thought is, no, not you. And the spider looks at me like, Mama. Like it looks at me like I'm its mother. And I start running away from it. And it's following me like really happily. Like it really just wanted to be near me, and I really did not want it to be near me. And then the rest of the dream was this spider chasing me around. But then I remembered that we looked up spider in the dream Bible, and it's like they typically signify problems. And so it was a dream about me literally running from my problems.
And that's the prophecy part?
The prophecy part is this morning, while she was telling me the dream, I go upstairs, and our pet spider that we've been letting live in the house for like a year now, that stays in a contained area upstairs, had decided to like pick up and move and was dangling like right over my computer chair. And so the problem manifested itself in the form of an actual spider pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was in the middle of telling you that dream when you were like, "Oh no!" And I look up and Mabel, our beloved
Mabel.
spider friend, had picked up and moved to a totally inappropriate location.
Yeah, it was pretty rude. So that spider's going to kill me one day, and that was the prophecy.
Yeah. Not unless you put it in a cup and take it outside.
Yeah,
But
that's
she's
what I
lived here.
pitched.
She's lived here for so long. She's lived here as long as we have. And she was just a little itty bitty. She was
Squatters'
tiny. She was tiny when she first appeared, like just a pinprick. And now she's like a full spider and has like a whole web and everything. And I'm pretty sure the only reason she's alive is because of the temperate climate in our house. And so I would feel really bad putting her outside.
Mabel is such a name that you give to like a dog with a handkerchief too. It's like such a cute country kind of name. Get in the house, Mabel.
Pretty weird, right? That spider was calling her mama, and now she's currently carrying life. Maybe that was the prophecy. Maybe Victor and Olivia should name their child Mabel. You know what? I'll pitch that to them, and I'll get back to you. But here's another interesting short conversation we had, not about dreams, but about both spiders and parenthood on totally separate days. Coincidence? I think not. I'm just following the threads here, people. The threads of the web, if you will. The spider web. It's just interesting, you know, looking back on how these things connect to our current situation. Anyway, here's me and Olivia with our synced ovulation cycles.
It is a good viewpoint to see the world as a dream.
It's interesting. Zach, I feel like I absorb your dreams sometimes.
Yeah, no joke.
This morning I woke up and I had like 2 dreams about babies, and it also had tiny like hamster-sized dogs.
Really?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I also went and hung out with my friend on Friday, who has a baby. So I was hanging out with a baby, and he was very cute.
That could be, and then the dream happened after.
I'm also ovulating
Right.
as we speak. So
Yeah, baby brain.
but it was just funny. I woke up, I was like, oh my God. I don't know. It was very reminiscent of the dreams we talked about.
Did I tell you about that little Asian boy at the grocery store?
No.
This was when I worked at Whole Foods in Seattle. I never experienced baby fever in my life, or even like thought about kids. But it was like around Halloween, and we had this giant like rubber spider on the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman walks up with her toddler, and she's like, "Excuse me, my son has something he wants to say to you." And I like kind of like bent over, and I was like, "What is it?" And he goes, "I loved a big piety." And what I said was something like, "Yeah, isn't it awesome?" But like what I wanted to say was, "I would die for you." Like, are you kidding me? That's the cutest shit I've ever heard. I thought I was ovulating.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, baby brain. It's fun to have fun, you guys. All right. Just one more thing about spiders, because what the fuck? Why did spiders keep coming up our first year? It's crazy. And I'm just noticing it while putting together this episode. Anyway, here's a dream that we got from Reddit, which was a thing we used to try to do where we went to r/dreams or whatever and tried to interpret shit with no context and no real expertise, which we're still working on obtaining, by the way. So here's an early attempt at that.
So this is from the Our Dreams subreddit, user getinlouder_101. And the title is, Saw a black tarantula in a dream where it turned into many tiny spiders. Hi all, I had a dream where I was washing dishes, and while putting back the dish in the drying rack, I saw a hand-sized tarantula staring at me. In shock and in my defense, I swatted the tarantula while screaming, and as soon as I did that, there was an influx of tiny baby spiders coming out of it that filled the whole room. I'm not sure why I was scared of the spider when in real life I'm pretty okay with them being a presence in my room or in my house. As in, as long as it's not on me, I'm fine with it being on the walls and such. I would really appreciate if anyone could help me understand this dream. Thank you.
So the Dream Bible, which I immediately went to, because I remember a long time ago reading that spiders had to do with death, especially like impending death. But that's not what the Dream Bible says.
So did you look for spiders specifically?
Black spiders.
So Victor has up tarantulas too, so it'll be interesting to see the difference here.
Both on the Dream Bible?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it says to dream of a spider represents feeling trapped or hopeless. A negative situation that feels inevitable or impossible to escape. Is that what it says about tarantulas?
Yeah, it says to dream of a tarantula represents feelings of total hopelessness or despair. So tarantula is just worse than a regular black spider, I guess. It's bigger and badder. Yeah.
More specific.
So he had a real big bad problem and he swatted it and it made a million little problems.
I mean, that totally could happen.
Yeah, it sounded like it disturbed him when normally spiders wouldn't bother him that much. So it's like his brain felt like it was trying to give him something to fear and it grabbed something he doesn't normally fear, which is a little odd.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have found to be most pertinent when examining my own dreams is how was I feeling at the moment? Like there might be, images or symbolism in there that, doesn't exactly resonate with me or whatever, but I might be having a really specific feeling as a response to those things. And that's kind of where I find the meaning usually lies.
So have you seen things that you normally aren't afraid of or felt feelings that are different from what you would normally experience if you saw that in real life?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely have. One dream in particular I'm remembering right now. I don't know. This is actually a dream I might want to save for like a full deep dive at some point. But I think this kind of happens a lot to me, where I will see something and it'll seem pretty mundane to me. Visually, it's not that alarming, but it will like elicit a really specific feeling. And it's usually like doom and like dread. Yeah. So I wonder what that's about. I wonder if we can
give the example, like of just, you don't have to give away, you don't have to burn the dream. But.
Yeah. Okay. So this has actually happened a few times. This is kind of a recurring dream of mine where, I will have dreams of like, the aliens are coming, like they're here, they've arrived. And,
we talked about that one time. So I have the same recurring dream.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've had it a few times and I will often have like, I don't know, it'll be like, I'll look up into the sky and I'll see something that it doesn't look like alien spaceships. It'll look like stars, that are moving or something. And it doesn't look scary to me, but it's like all of a sudden I know that the world is about to end and I will like crumble to the ground and just in total despair.
Yeah, in mine it's the like lines shoot between stars and then they get filled in like stained glass.
Oh, interesting.
And so they look like these pictures that are really, really, really far away out in space. And in my dream, the feeling that everyone else is feeling in the dream that I probably would be feeling in real life is like terror. But in my version of the dream, it's like overwhelming awe.
And that's interesting
And, like-
because you have told me that several people in your family have had alien encounters and have talked
Yeah.
about it as like a terrifying thing, and you're just over here just so jealous and wishing that it would happen
I want
to
it
you.
too bad.
I feel differently. Aliens scare me more than like ghosts or any of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't you the flip reverse with ghosts?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you want to be haunted.
I
as
don't
much as
want to be
abducted.
haunted, but I wouldn't mind it as much as I would mind aliens. They
Maybe
feel
not
much more
haunted.
powerful to me. They are ghosts are not of this world and they're not meant to be here. You know, they're kind of like slipping through the veil, whereas aliens, I feel to me, are like this all powerful thing that like I could never stand a chance against.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I don't see it as a me versus that. They could be like on different sides of the same, like maybe they're both interdimensional beings, you know what I mean? But ghosts are a more like passive version of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, nobody could really know. But I guess going off of just the idea of either of them, like the idea of like an alien abduction versus like a haunting, alien abduction is much more terrifying to me personally.
Yeah, I'm more afraid of ghosts. I want to be abducted. Come across as desperate, though. That's why they're not showing up.
Yeah, you're trying too hard.
I feel like you're using reverse psychology on like any aliens listening. Tuned in,
Yeah,
like, oh, this
hopefully
guy's
they
too
are.
thirsty for it.
But that got pretty far away from spiders.
It sure did.
Well, to turn back, so we've already stumped the Dream Bible because I found an entry for washing and an entry for dishes, but not an entry for washing dishes, which is how he got to the spider situation, right? As he was washing his dishes, and then there was a tarantula, and he was like, oh no, a tarantula, and swatted it. This room filled with spiders. So maybe the meaning lies somewhere between these two things. So washing, to dream of washing yourself, represents emotional or situational cleansing, being rid of some unwanted aspect of yourself or your life, wanting to make a fresh start. It may also be a sign that you are trying to make yourself more honest. And then we have dishes. To dream of dishes represents ideas, beliefs, or situations that are being handed to the dreamer. What one has received or hopes to receive from others. You may feel that life is holding you a certain experience on a platter.
It's interesting to
I'm
kind of
trying to-
merge those two.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to think of how to do.
Like cleansing yourself of ideas, beliefs, or situations that are being presented to you, and maybe like not accepting something that is being handed to you, perhaps, or
Well,
something
and then-
like more spiritual that is
Oh, you know what? I'm sitting here trash talking the Dream Bible when they have covered this. If you scroll down in dishes, there is an entry specific to washing dishes. To dream of washing dishes represents moving on or planning for the next phase of your life. You are finishing up with something or completely getting rid of certain beliefs you had. So that's interesting.
And it's funny that kind of is what I just said about trying to put those two together. So it's interesting to merge that because that seems like kind of a positive thing, like moving forward and moving on to a next phase in your life. Merging that with like this spider and these little problems and this big problem that turns into little problems. But maybe that's not, because that could be like a fear about moving on.
Right.
Right? Like, so if you're in a transitional phase in your life, that usually comes with a lot of fear and uncertainty and sometimes problems, but mostly problems that you think might be a problem that maybe don't ever happen.
When if the problem is fear of moving on or pressing forward, then, squashing that fear would actually manifest all the problems with not moving on. You know what I mean?
Mm.
With staying put.
Yeah, so
Maybe
there could be
maybe that's what the little spiders are.
could be a life transition, and then anxiety about that life transition, and then maybe concern that dealing with it could cause all sorts of additional problems.
I wonder what he is afraid of in real life.
Yeah.
And why his brain didn't use that for symbolism.
Mm.
It's like maybe it's like heights or something. And his subconscious is like, well, I don't know how to put that around dishes.
Yeah. Washing
So
dishes on a
what's
cliff.
spooky?
I mean, it's, it is kind of silly to think that there's an inherent symbolism behind everything that could appear in a dream for you. But it is also kind of fun to use it to analyze a dream where we don't have any of that context, because even if we're way off base about what's going on in this person's life, it's kind of fun to take those images and find a potential meaning and kind of create a story for that dreamer.
Some of them are definitely, culturally driven, right? I mean, even if this guy's not afraid of spiders, they evoke Halloween, and a lot of people are afraid of spiders. There's a cultural feeling around spiders.
Yeah. And he did say like he doesn't mind them being like in his house, and that is different than like finding a tarantula in your sink. I think that would be alarming to anybody.
Yeah.
I think the symbolism of dealing with one big thing and then it turning into a much bigger problem where you have lots of little things to worry about is pretty universal, and you could do that.
Yeah, I would actually, because of one big spider, I think would startle me and confuse me. But 1,000 little spiders, that would actually terrify me.
Yeah, that's a problem that's like way out of your hands. You can't catch them all, and even if you scoop them all up,
and it's way grosser.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't even want it. The tarantula, I would start to try to figure out, like, kind of get them in this popcorn bowl and bring them outside, or whatever. But the 1,000 little spiders, I would just leave. I would just
it's unmanageable.
Break my lease.
It's chaotic.
We had that with ladybugs, and I almost left.
Did I tell you about the ladybugs?
No, but I've seen pictures, like in some places it has to do with migrational patterns, right? They just show up in like huge droves.
Well, so we moved into a house and I got a little obsessed with houseplants. And
I remember that.
We have a lot of them now. And at a certain point, there were some minor pests that I had read that you can kind of deal with them with predator pests, and ladybugs will eat other bugs. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go get a bunch of ladybugs and release them in the house and see how that goes. So I come home with like this little box of like 1,000 ladybugs, and I was going to put it was in the middle of the summer. I was going to put like 30 ladybugs in the house and like see how they did. And then maybe like put the rest in the garden. But so I'm like carefully putting one ladybug on each leaf of this plant, and I just dropped the container and spilled 1,000 ladybugs onto the floor. And it was like that. They were just, scattering everywhere. And even though we scooped as many up as we could, for weeks and weeks, there were definitely more ladybugs in the house than we had planned for.
They were everywhere.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheel, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, unless you're free. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheel, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. Unless you're free. Unless you're free. The machine will be prevented from working at all.
All right, sweet dreamers. I just got one more segment for you. It has nothing to do with spiders or having kids, but it is one that I've been dying to share for a while. It's one of my dreams, and it's one that has stuck with me vividly for years now since I told it to the dream team. And we tackled it, I think, pretty well. You'll find for how inexperienced we were at the time. And yeah, there's just there hasn't been a place for it to resurface until now. So I'm shoehorning it into this episode, and I hope you'll enjoy it. It is the nightcap to the party. So a while back, I had a dream that I was getting married, and the wedding was in a venue. This sort of felt like a music venue, because there was this raised stage, and we were actually getting married on the stage. And so friends and family were all on the dance floor watching, and we're doing the vows part. And I'm reading my vows off of like an index card, and as I'm reading them, I'm feeling like these words feel really familiar, and they feel like they're not mine. And I keep thinking, where did these words come from? But I keep reading them, and then once I finish, my wife to be says, she goes, "Nice vows, John Mulaney." And that's when it hits me that these aren't vows at all. I'm just reading John Mulaney jokes to her. And I try to sort of start to explain myself. I don't know how I'm going to explain this. I don't know how this happened, this like accidental plagiarism. But she stops me. And in another direct quote from the dream, she goes, "You know what? It's fine. Because the only reason we're even having this wedding," and then she turns to the crowd and goes, "is to sell you all supplements." And she rips her dress off. And underneath it, she's wearing jeans and a t-shirt for like a supplement company called like Supplemax or something. And right at that moment, the DJ starts playing Whoomp, There It Is, the tag team song from 1993. And all my friends and family just go nuts and start like dancing. And it just turns into a party. And so I get off the stage, and I'm like, super dejected and defeated. And I'm just making my way through all my friends and family who don't even seem to see me because they're just partying. And I leave through a side door, and I'm walking away from the venue down an alley. And I turn back towards the venue and go, "Womp, there it goes." And yeah, that's where that dream ends.
There's a lot of great one-liners in your dreams.
Certainly in that one. That's why it stood out to me, is I don't usually dream that narratively or with that much coherent dialogue.
Yeah, there were let's see, like three or four quotes in there.
Yeah. And
It's
the "nice vows, John Mulaney" was verbatim. And I think I kind of paraphrased the supplements part, but that's definitely how it ended, was with "to sell you all supplements." And that's exactly how she did it. Like that was the cue for the DJ.
And then it's interesting that there's a song that had some meaning to you, and then you quoted the song. And
yeah, that was verbatim too. That's when I woke up and I was like, I have to tell Olivia about this dream because it ended on a punchline. I think it was even one of those things where the punchline woke me up from the dream. Like my brain was like, write that down, wake up and write that down. I don't know if that ever happens to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, so my first takeaway from that dream is that maybe it's about rejection or embarrassment, like feeling dejected by the people who are supposed to love you, or like really putting yourself out there and it going badly. and you paying a price for that.
Yeah, those were definitely, I mean, rejection and embarrassment were definitely major themes.
Did you recognize the bride? Was she someone you knew?
No.
Gotcha.
I mean, I've read somewhere that your brain apparently can't invent faces.
I feel like that's bullshit.
I don't know how you would know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
who decided that?
Yeah, I wish I could remember where I read that.
I've heard that too. I hear
have
that. I
too.
hear people say that all the time, and I think it's not true.
And that if you see someone in a dream you don't know, you probably saw them on the street or something.
As if it's easier for my brain to retain a random face I saw on the street than to just like make up a new one. I find that people's faces in dreams, even if it's someone I know, it'll often like their face will kind of change and shift. What's it called?
Disjunctive cognition.
Yeah, there we go. I will get that a lot with people's faces and strangers' face, or like faces of people who are not familiar to me, like especially, but it's not like it's shifting between faces that I know, it's just not very clear. Anyway.
Yeah, she was roughly the same height and hair color as an ex of mine, but I don't remember her looking like her.
And usually you'd know if it was them, even if they look different.
Yeah, I think my brain could recall the face of somebody that I saw every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
do you remember how you felt when you were reading the John Mulaney quotes? Like, did it feel like this was going off the rails at that stage? Or were you like proud of them? Or what was the feeling up to that point?
Nervousness. I was like really nervous to be on stage reading this in front of everybody, and then growing increasingly nervous as I realized that I'm pretty sure I didn't write this, and confused about like I didn't get what I was reading.
This part, okay, something in me wants to tie this to Victor's mashed potatoes speech.
I just had that thought. Yeah, no, it does feel similar.
Yeah, there's definitely a parallel there. They're like having to.
It's like a performance.
For the listeners, do we just want to recap that dream real quick, Victor?
Yeah, so I had a dream where there was a very high pressure, intense situation where I had to read a note that was, in fact, like a handful of mashed potatoes with carrots and like roast vegetables in it. And I killed it. Everybody loved it. I did a great job. Proudest moment of my life.
So it's kind of an opposite dream?
Yeah, I did not crush it. I remember feeling like I trailed off at the end. Like I felt like I had to keep reading, but I just got to the end of it and I didn't own it, you know?
Zach, what was going on in your life at this time? Can you remember?
I definitely was not with that aforementioned ex. I think it was not too long. Well, we were working together.
Mm-hmm.
So I had been in Seattle for a little while, but I moved to Seattle from Denver for that job. Go ahead.
Okay, so something that just an interesting parallel is that if you think of the job as like the performance, it's like it was kind of like a big momentous thing for you to move for this job that like was maybe like
a scam,
misrepresented to you. Yeah. So you get there for this job, you move to a new city, and like it turns out that it's a bunch of like woo-woo people selling like snake oil supplements. And it was not the performance that you were expecting, maybe. It wasn't as successful for you as you thought it was going to be.
It's like failing at something that was also like worthless garbage, and you didn't realize it was worthless garbage when you got into it, and you're still failing at it. It's like the wedding didn't matter. The wedding was just like a way to sell pills to people, and even then, like you aren't nailing it.
Yeah.
There was no way to nail that job, though. Like, that was the point of it.
No. Yeah. The turnover was part of the design of the job. And yeah, that probably was right around the time when I was starting to get the feeling that a lot of what we were doing at that job was a grift.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was also just like um there was like in particular there was one like joke that we like an inside joke that we had about a supplement that like we heard people selling. It was the curcumin.
Oh yeah.
So there was a guy that would pop up on this like terrible like snake oily show. And he had like just kind of a funny voice, and he just went on and on and on about curcumin.
He had like a Kermit the Frog voice.
Yeah, and he was also like QAnon kind of guy who was also like convinced that this curcumin, which is I think actually just a spice, like it is like a kind of cumin. Anyway, I think maybe it's curry and cumin. I would not be surprised if it was just curry and cumin together. But yeah, so that was definitely a thing we were talking about a lot.
He was hawking it, like saying it could cure autism and stuff.
Yeah. He was like talking about, he talked about like how his daughter, like who he referred to as a savant, like started taking the curcumin and then like learned how to play the piano really well. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a weird job.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, moving across the country for it, I mean, that is a commitment.
It's like getting married.
Yeah.
Does that resonate for you that it felt like a work dream, or does that not feel right?
No, I think that it's kind of coming together for me. I hadn't thought about it like that before because, relationships are always on most people's mind. And so that's what it seemed to be about. But that would explain why the bride didn't even have like a recognizable face. Like she really did feel like just a random woman, like not anyone,
like a stand-in.
Yeah, not even like an amalgamation of exes or love interests. Like she was so far removed from anybody that I actually even know.
It is interesting though that your family was there not caring about you.
Yeah, I wonder what can you place that into this new framework? Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, because that was the weirdest part of the dream at the time, was when I was leaving and I was like devastated, but everyone I love is just dancing to tag team. I don't know. That could be a feeling of like, so I remember thinking, that I was like failing at this thing. I thought this was like my breakthrough job, like this job was going to change everything for me. And it turned out to be something else. And then I wasn't even doing a good job at that thing.
It would have been impossible to do a good job at that thing, to be perfectly clear. It's like you didn't have a chance to do a good job at that thing.
I only beat the system by quitting. Like the only way you ever get power is if you say, I don't need you, and then they need you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But then the disappointment of it not actually being that break, it feels like a huge setback. Like, well, I guess I'm at square one. And then on top of that being, that was around my 30th birthday. I remember thinking that was the age that all my friends had finally put shit together. Like a lot of people in my life, that was around age 30 is when we all started to find an actual career and like get stuff on track after dicking around for our whole 20s. And so I was like, oh, perfect. I'm on schedule with everyone else. I got this job right around my 30th birthday. And then it feels like I actually didn't get anywhere. So those people in the audience could be like my idea of my peer group, like succeeding at something, or at least
I was
enjoying what they're doing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it does sound like a self-worth thing. Like the people you love and care about not caring about you could mean like, okay, you have this failure, and then the failure is part of this thing that didn't matter. And then going through the crowd and being ignored by people you care about is like, because I now lack self-worth or whatever. And then you're out on the street by yourself.
I also wonder if maybe it's another way you could interpret it is that like, because you moved to another state, your family is far away from you, that they're not aware of what's going on with you, And so like they know that you moved for this, you made this commitment to this new job and that you moved far away. And like, as far as they know, it's a party and you're doing great and everything's totally fantastic, and they just are not. They're just none the wiser to like your experience of it and like what you're going through in kind of coming to terms with the reality of the job. And so like they are, they're partying because they just are not in the loop with you, maybe.
That's really interesting. So it's not that they don't care about you. It's that they're not aware of you feeling like you're failing or feeling like you're part of a sham. For them, it's still like a happy wedding.
Yeah, that could be, because when I was walking through the crowd, they didn't even really seem to notice me. And it's not like I could pick anyone out in the crowd as a specific friend or family member. And I just remembered on my way out of the venue, like I was backing through double doors and I gave everyone the double birds on my way out. So there was, between the bouts of like dejection and sadness, there was a moment of like anger at the crowd for being so callous and indifferent, or just for having a good time. Maybe they also did seem stoked to be sold supplements, so they could be part of my perception of the job.
That isn't a thing that was frustrating about that job, is watching, like, I felt like I had to kind of watch a lot of people being scammed. Like I had to watch people getting tricked by the people who were maybe tricked themselves into selling snake oil. Like it did seem like most of the people who were doing this were not like scam artists as much as they were people who had been scammed.
That's literally,
but then they were then passing it on.
That's how a pyramid scheme works.
Yeah, totally. So that was definitely like a difficult part for me, was seeing everybody like over the moon about things that I perceived to be like a waste of their money. And that's what the job was too. Like supplements aside, and like, like ancestral healing, light language sessions aside, like whatever you're doing aside, the actual job itself, the business model was like a podcast network that demanded a shit ton of money from clients to have a podcast like shittily produced remotely and put onto an internet radio platform that does not actually have listenership. So and it was the promise of a platform. So like the actual job itself, the business model of that company is a scam. And so I think I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point, but that was something that I struggled with.
Can we use any of this?
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we can. We didn't expect to talk about this, but I'm glad there's been an unspoken thing where we haven't said anyone's name or the name of the company. Mm-hmm. So I think that makes it usable.
Yeah.
Amazon.
We're talking about Amazon.
Jeffrey Bezos.
That's who I went to work for after that job.
Yeah. So do we want to toss it back to you? What do you think?
Well, this was a while ago, and I've just been sitting on it because it sticks so clearly in my memory because of the quotes and the punchline. And it's just a funny dream. It's one of those that's actually, sometimes people don't like to hear your dreams. They say dreams are like photographs. No one cares unless there's naked people or they're in them. But because this one's actually funny, it's stuck in my memory. So I've been walking around with it, not putting the work thing together. But now that we've contextualized it and talked about it, I do think I don't think it was about relationships or marriage at all. I think it was about work.
I think you ending on that killer one-liner was you telling yourself you were going to be okay.
Whoomp, there it goes.
Thanks for listening to The Young and the Restless. You can follow us on Instagram at thejungandtherestlesspod and submit your dreams to thejungandtherestlesspod@gmail.com. And as we always say, whoomp, there it goes.
it doesn't feel appropriate to end with asses to asses and butts to butts.
Next time. Wasn't that from a dream that I had where it was I had a dream that we were doing butt to butt therapy.
Asses to asses, butts to butts.
That was a me one.
That's genius.
I actually kind of like it.
That's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
Oh,
If we don't do it this time, we're doing it.
Would have been good for episode 26 actually.
Yeah.
What about you can't hang your hat on a hang up?
Oh, that's good. We talked about hang-ups, and that was a theme with Steve.
Yeah.
Did you just come up with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. You can't.
I'm gonna be waiting for that one. Oh shit!
Your hat.
I'll be like,
On-
yes, they did it.
All right, you can't hang your hat on a hang up. That's what we're doing.
That got me good.